guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm doing some nails inspired by Tsubaki Kasugano from Future Diary. So to start off, as usual, I painted all of my nails white. And you can totally do this design on short nails, however I decided to work on tapered square. But for the first nail design, which is going to be on the thumbnail, I am of course going to go in with some black acrylic paint as well as my trusty toothpick, and I am just going to paint on the outline of Tsubaki. So Tsubaki has so much detail. I'm first starting off by painting on like her bang, which is kind of choppy. She has super long hair as well. But yeah, I'm also going to go ahead and paint on like the, top portion of her kimono, as well as the big bow that she has behind her head. So now that the outlining is out of the way and the black acrylic paint has completely dried, I'm now going to go in and start working on the color. So the first thing I did was I painted in like a light peach for her face and her neck. Like I said before, Tsubaki has a lot of detail, so for her hair, I'm first just going to go in with this dark purple acrylic paint and fill it all in. In the meantime, I'm going to let her hair dry. I'll go back to that later, but I'm going to go in with red and fill in her bow as well as like this portion of her kimono. Went in with some light green as well as white to work around the collar area of the kimono. Now her hair has dried, so I'm just going to go in with a little bit of white acrylic paint and that same purple I used before and just create some highlights. So I'm using a dotting tool, they're a lot bigger than they should be, so I went back in with that same plum purple just to fix them up. Just going to stipple on like a little white barrette right there. So for her eye, I'm only going to paint on one because the other one's covered up by a bang. And I'm doing all of this with just some black and white acrylic paint. So Tsubaki is actually like, I don't want to say she's blind, but she has really bad vision. So I am just going to paint on like her eye color as well as a pupil, and that's it. I also decided to paint on some blush. I mean, she doesn't have blush, I just wanted to make her all cutesy. But here's the finished nail design. So moving on to the second nail design, which is going to be on the index nail. Once again, going to paint on her kimono. So first things first is I'm going to paint on the bow. I'm sorry that my hand's covering up the camera. But yeah, I'm just going to paint on a little square and then like two triangles going opposite directions of it, if that makes sense. And right up under the square, I am just going to paint on a rectangle. So I'm going to let the black acrylic paint dry. I'll come back to this later. In the meantime, I'm going to go in with a red nail polish and just fill the top and the bottom portion of this nail. Pretty easy just to use the brush, but of course any hard to reach places you can just use a dotting tool. Now that the nail is completely red, I'm now going to go back in with some white acrylic paint and just clean up the line work I did on the bow. Now that the acrylic paint and the nail polish is dried, I'm now going to go in with my toothpick and black acrylic paint to do the line details. Of course, painted on two lines for the bow, a vertical line coming down from the rectangle, and paint on two parallel lines going diagonally right here. The last thing I'm going to do is just paint on like a little curved line just to make it look more like a bow. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Here's the finished nail design. So now moving on to the third nail design, which is going to be on the middle nail, I'm actually going to paint on Tsubaki's diary. Now, she has one of the more unique diaries. Instead of it being a cell phone, is instead a giant scroll, so that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to paint it like if it was opened. So right here, I'm just going to paint it like with a super light green acrylic paint. As for the top and bottom, I'm just going to use a regular dark green acrylic paint. I'm of course going to work on any extra details such as the little green hexagon shapes as well as, you know, any black lines. Now for the actual paper, I'm just going to use that super light green and I'm just going to add a line on the top and the bottom portion. And how it appears in the anime, I'm just going to go in with my toothpick and some black acrylic paint and I'm just going to paint on dead end. Well, I know that it's all like kind of crunched together. It's only because my nail is so narrow, but anyways, here's the finished nail design. Now moving on to the ring nail design, which is inspired by Tsubaki's ball, the one thing she loves so much. Now, I'm actually going to paint on the floor first, so first thing I'm going to do is go around my nail with like a liquid latex barrier. And to create like the texture of the floor, I am just going to use a regular paintbrush. I guess you can call this kind of like the dry brush technique. So I got a little bit of green acrylic paint and I'm just going to dab most of it off, just leaving a little bit on the brush and just going back and forth on the nail. You can see it leaves like these little streaks and stuff. Kind of looks like the texture of the floor, and I'm just going to do this with different shades of green acrylic paint. So yeah, that looks pretty good. This is just a background though. It doesn't have to be perfect, and yeah, well I went ahead and removed the latex barrier, and now right here in the middle, I'm going to start painting on her ball. So I'm actually really bad at painting on circles, so what I like to do is, well, actually first I'm going in with some white acrylic paint and I'm just going to do the connect the dot method. This really helps me with my freehanding, but anyways, now what I'm going to do is just go in with that paintbrush and just fill it in completely with white. Reasoning for this step is because I'm now going to go in with some red and fill it in. The reason why I put white down first is so it could be a little more vibrant. Yeah, I just filled in the entire circle. I left a little bit of an outline of white. There's no harm of doing that. But after that red completely dries, I'm now going to go in with my toothpick as well as a safety pin to do actually most of the detail. And I'm just going to do my very best to do all the little designs that are on Tsubaki's ball. There's so much detail on that one object alone, so if you're a little overwhelmed by this, no worries. I mean, I had to look at a reference photo and it still looks nothing like the actual ball. Oh well, at least I tried. But here's the finished nail design. So now moving on to the fifth and final nail design, which is going to be on the pinky nail. So for this top portion of the nail, I'm actually going to paint on that little sash thing that Yuno and Yuki wore whenever they visited the temple. Right here in the middle of this thing, I'm going to go in with black acrylic paint and just paint on like a little oval shape. Actually, I'm going to paint on 3, like all of them connecting to one another. And to finish it off, I'm just going to go in with my dotting tool and some red nail polish and just boop right there in the middle of the nail. As for the rest of the nail, I'm sorry, I really like Tsubaki's kimono, so I'm going to paint the whole bottom portion of it with some red nail polish. I wanted this to be inspired by her sleeve, so I'm just going to paint on a vertical lime green stripe. And for this side right here, I'm just going to paint on like little straight lines as well as some little dots, just for some stitch work. And here we are done with the nails. Now, of course, if you like a shiny finish, these are what the nails look like if you just use a regular glossy taco. However, me personally, I love the soft matte finishes, so I chose to go with the matte top coat, but feel free to use whatever finishing you would like. But yeah, like I said, here are the finished Tsubaki Kasugano inspired nail art. I plan on doing some more Future Diary or Mirai Nikki inspired nail art in the future. I hope you enjoyed today's video, guys, and as always, thanks for watching!